Hello guys, it's Brittany.
And I'm Preston.
Yeah, how are you? As you can see, I'm wearing my little triangle shirt today. It has a little diamond on it. I just wanted to point that out. You know, the triangle for the Illuminati, which is what I will be talking about. I am going to continue talking about this book. It's called Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. I wanted to add in that I do call it a pale horse instead of a yellow greenish horse, which is what it would actually be. It would be the fourth horse. There's 4 horses all together. One of them is actually, it's kind of pale. That's why it's a yellowish green color, and it represents death. That is, death is what, the death horse is what comes to Earth and conquers 1/4 of Earth, according to several things.
Yeah, the 4 horsemen.
Yeah, according to the Bible, and it also clearly mentions this. I think here's actually the quote about it. It says, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with the beasts of earth." That is from the Holy Bible and the book of Revelations, chapter 6, verse 8, in case anybody is curious about that. But I'm going to get into talking about the video. The first thing I'm going to talk about, which is what I ended with last night, was companies and industries. What is an ideal industry? What would you consider an ideal industry?
Probably something monopolized.
A monopoly?
You know, something that completely recycles and feeds itself with pure money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very true. It is actually, it's considered a device. It receives value. Value is money. From other industries in several forms, and it converts it into one specific product or more than one product, and then it sells it, redistributes it through other industries.
Yeah, so it recycles itself.
So essentially what you just said, it keeps recycling itself. It's a monopoly. It's several industries operating under one roof, and that's not a good thing. I was talking about a picture last night about all these industries. There's actually 10 companies that own all of the world's supply, according to this article I seen earlier. But I will show you the picture, so the music will stop for a second. I might have to turn it back on. But here's the picture. It'll probably be kind of blurry. I'm having issues trying to show it, but as you can see, it's Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, and General Mills, all the main ones. Mars, and Wrigley's, the gum company. They all own all kinds of other smaller companies and food brands that you would buy every day. And
yeah, they're deceptive with it too.
Mm-hmm.
They sit there and act like they're a completely separate company and they're competing. But really, it's the same
in other
branch
words,
the whole time.
Support everyone's home businesses,
yeah,
small business, local businesses. Support them versus supporting big brands like Walmart and other industries like that. It's not a good thing. I'm gonna turn the music back on. And yeah, I'm sorry for that delay. That's not a good thing. Support small businesses because it will help them out a lot more than it would other industries. It just goes in the CEO's pocket anyways. Everyone knows that.
Yep.
You see it in your paycheck every day. Okay. When the flow of economic value, aka the money, diminishes, the human population field collapses. which seems to have been the case when all the toilet paper got bought. When all the toilet paper got bought and there was no more meats in the stores and
Good luck getting a face mask.
a face mask. The coronavirus, aka the silent war, affects the economy in ways you wouldn't even realize, including with the daily products you feel all of a sudden the need to buy for whatever reason. Probably self-preservation, which is also something I will talk about, which is also something they use and manipulate. It collapses in order to keep the money flowing, and in extreme cases, that usually is what leads to war. That is the reason for war in a lot of cases.
Makes sense.
Yeah. This phenomenon, or however you say the word.
Phenomenon.
Yeah. I'm German. I have issues with words sometimes. English is my second language. I'm just putting that out there. And that causes something called a public inertia. And this public inertia, which is, kind of like energy, which is what I was talking about yesterday, results in the consumer buying habits, and it also is what causes an expected standard of living, how you feel like you should live every day, and it is a form of self-preservation, like I just said. It just, be aware. It goes a lot more into talking about energy, but I'm not going to explain that right now. I will, I'm going to try to keep the video a little bit shorter. The next point I will talk about is the welfare program. The welfare program is a very big thing. A lot of people are on it. I have been on it before. It is an alternative to war because, there's all kinds of different things that could happen. An alternative to keep war away is to have people on welfare. Well, why would that be?
That actually is a good question.
Yeah, like, why would that be?
How does that stop war?
Well, here's why. In order to stabilize an economy, it's very hard, it's very hard to stabilize an economy. And that is because there's too much demand, aka too much greed. Everybody wants more, and there's too many people on this earth. The only way it can be balanced is through true resources, which are goods and services.
Yeah.
I would consider that food, all your truly essential items. And
stuff you buy religiously every day.
This is what you call the welfare program. This is what the welfare program is. And there's actually a little quote I'm going to read about the welfare program. It says, the social welfare program is nothing more than an open-ended credit balance system which creates false capital industry to give non-productive people a roof over their heads and food in their stomachs. This can be useful, however, because their recipients become state property in return for the gift, a standing army for the elite. For he who pays the piper picks the tune. That's a little good quote. Because essentially you're at their mercy. You're at the government's mercy because you're on the welfare program. They're helping you, correct?
And then you build your whole life around it. And
you
then
build your whole life around it, and you
God
become
forbid
dependent
that check
on it.
ever gets cut out.
Exactly. And as they say, he who pays the piper picks the tune. There is also another thing that they mention other than the social welfare program, which usually goes hand in hand with it, which is those who get hooked on the economic drug, which I would also consider an addiction to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, any substance. must go to the elite for their fix. You have to go to the doctors, which are run by the governments, to get your fix. So once again, you're under their control, and in that case, you're physically under their control because you probably start withdrawing or something like that. And that wouldn't be good. The reason that this is such a good method is because it introduces large amounts of stable capital.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything becomes stable because it, by borrowing on future credit of the world, it borrows you essentially. The government gives you money so you can buy food, have a home to live in, and then whenever they need you, whenever that may be, they're going to ask you to be there for them, in other words, because that's what will be expected of you. I don't think there will be much of a choice if it comes to that point.
It was blackmail.
Yeah. This essentially sets in a fourth law of motion. It is performing an action and leaving system before the reflected reaction returns, which is, in other words, a delayed reaction. It causes a delayed reaction. And here's the interesting part about it, which I feel like is what's happening right now. The system is changing. Through the coronavirus, everything has changed suddenly. To survive a reaction is by changing the system before the reaction returns, aka how politicians come to be. A lot of politicians, you hear about them for a little bit and they disappear, they do some good things, and they put their name out there, but then eventually, years later, or if they're a politician right now, they might do something and years later it might have an after effect,
Yeah.
It's just, that's how politicians thrive. This is how, is through this reaction system of borrowing your time, and then it's time and energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The government achieves this same reaction, this delayed reaction, by printing more money. This is money beyond the limits of the gross national product, which is also called inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that inflation exists is because printing money to the excess, which I talked about yesterday, was negative. That's always bad. It is always bad to print more money. The reason they do this is because it strays the wolf from the door for a little bit. It keeps the people happy, They print excess money. They send us little $1,200 checks in the mail, like they're doing right now. And, that makes the people happy. We're in a bad time right now. Everybody don't have a job. We're at their mercy. And then they send us these checks, and hallelujah, the government. Oh boy. Here's the deal though. Because they're doing it, they're creating a creditor, and they must destroy this creditor, and they do this by war, meaning there might be an upcoming war. World War III. The silent war is what I call it. I'm just kidding.
Let's hope not.
No, it's not just a silent war. It'll be a mixture of a silent war and a, quote, nuclear war.
Did World War III
I don't think...
wouldn't end in any way, shape, or form in a good way.
Yeah.
We're too advanced now.
I'm also into the Nostradamus predictions, and I have a whole book on that, which goes into World War III and all that stuff, and I'm not even gonna start talking about that yet. But eventually, they must resort through war by destroying the creditor, which is done by politicians usually. And these politicians do this to keep the blood off our hands, the public, you know, because we don't want to be blamed. We wouldn't want to get in trouble for it, correct? Yeah. But, you know, they're all hired, so they're not really going to get in trouble. If you think about it, it's all an act, it's all a stage, it's all a TV show. Everything on TV is just a TV show. And if the government doesn't do this, here is what they say are the two alternatives that would happen. Here's two alternatives to reduce the economic endurance. That is one, to let the population kill each other in war, and they would keep doing that until there would be nothing but total destruction left on Earth. Nothing would be left eventually. Or two is to take control of the world and use its silent weapons to reduce the endurance of the world to safe levels, you know, to make it livable, to make it, you know, as it is normally, I guess, by the process of slavery and genocide.
Of course.
Yeah, by the process of slavery and genocide. And this is why silent weapons need to be kept silent, because if the public knew about that and if they truly understood it, then because where I've been reading this book and truly been understanding it, it says, it has a quote in the book where it says you have to read this first chapter in order to shatter what you thought was real before. And it is correct, I feel like, because it did shatter my view of the world. And what do I do now, you know? So I decided to make videos to get it out there, and I hope that I reach somebody, and I hope that one day it can change.
I like that one quote. Listen to everything, see everything, believe nothing that you can't prove beyond the, you know, shadow of a doubt with your own eyes and whatnot.
Yeah, that's also a really good quote. Always be wary of everything, because you don't know where anyone truly is lying and who's watching, which is also something I will get into a little bit further in this video, but I will move on to economic shock testing. An engineer can study the behavior, an economic engineer can study the behavior of an economy and its consumers by selecting a stable commodity, something like coffee or toilet paper or you know, cereal, I don't know, just a random product that everyone buys, I guess, and then causing a sudden change in the price or in its availability, which is something that has happened with a lot of the products in stores here recently, you know. Sometimes the price goes up, sometimes it's down, kind of like gas prices, or it's very low right now, for example. Normally it's really high.
Yep.
It's been up to $4 or $5.
Exactly. God, I've seen it up to like $4 a gallon, and then back down to like $1.19.
Something. Is that $1.70, I think, right now or something? But but that is crazy, yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that is happening right now, is that a lot of the products just kind of bought out. It's a shock to everyone, and what that causes is a state of motion or a change by a controlled self-destructive shock test, in other words. They observe the shockwave by monitoring prices. They monitor the ads, and they monitor the sales of products, which, remember, they can do through, you know, your credit card being scanned, you know, your little Ingalls Advantage card, Food City card, you know, the UPC code. They keep track of it all. This eventually convinces the public that certain experts should take control of the money system and reestablish security rather than freedom and justice for all. Essentially, your spending habit, you normally have a certain amount you can spend each week on groceries or something, and then if they change the prices or the availability of it, it throws it out of whack,
Yeah.
And
especially if you're budgeting like every last penny.
exactly, that's what I'm talking about, is budgeting. And a lot of people do that to keep their finances in track, and that causes it to mess up, because the people can't predict, oh, well, it might change next week, and that's what they look for, and they do that to set the economy into a predictive state of motion. And yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's when the people, start thinking, hey, experts should, take control of the money, because I clearly can't handle it. And when citizens cannot control their finances, they become enslaved to a source of cheap labor. So in other words, you're either on the welfare program then, or you just have to work for the system, be at your job every day, and do what they say. And this is why.
It's just insane how easy it is for everything to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Everything could shatter in a moment.
Everything could shatter in a moment if everybody just came together. That's what the government just is so afraid of. A government wouldn't exist without its people.
Yeah, it's true.
Always remember that. And it's not too late yet. It really is not too late yet, but it will be soon if it goes further, and it's starting to get to that point. It's getting to that critical point where people better get enlightened and wake up. Shock testing shows there's a direct relationship between money and fault flowing in an economy and psychological outlook and response of the masses. So how the masses would react, so however much money is in the economy is how the people will act in their spending habits and what they will buy. They can predict that through this shock testing. For now, this is all I will talk about. I will make a video tomorrow about what is it called? The different ways that the government watches you, and it is crazy. When I read that, I was just like, oh my god, like, you don't even think about, oh my god. So, it's something exciting to look forward to. Yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.